Subscribe. There is a weight in your pocket that you likely haven't felt in years. It is the weight of a moment. It is the weight of a transition from one world to an entirely different one. For the men listening who remember where they were in the spring of 1994, the air felt different then. It was a time when the maps of the world were being redrawn, and nowhere was that drawing more profound than in the southern tip of the African continent. Most of us go through our lives looking at the change in our palms as nothing more than a means to an end. We see copper, we see nickel, we see numbers. But every so often, the minting presses of a nation capture more than just a denomination. They capture a soul. They capture a revolution that didn't happen with bullets, but with a ballot and a handshake. Today, we are diving into a piece of metal that holds the heartbeat of the new South Africa. We are talking about the 1994 South Africa 5 Rand coin. But not just any 5 Rand. We are talking about a specific commemorative strike that marked the inauguration of a man who spent 27 years in a cell only to walk out and lead a nation. Think back to that year. 1994 was a year of giants. It was the year the world watched with bated breath as the old guard gave way to the new. If you are between the ages of 35 and 65, you remember the grainy footage on the evening news. You remember the long lines of people stretching across the dusty plains, waiting for their first chance to decide their own destiny. Amidst all that grand history, the South African Mint was busy. They had a task that was both technical and deeply symbolic. They had to create a coin that would circulate among the people, a coin that would be held by the rich and the poor alike, representing a unified country. This was the first time in South African history that such a massive shift was commemorated on a 5 Rand piece. For those of you who appreciate the mechanical precision of a mint, you understand that a coin is more than just a disc. It is a document. The 1994 5 Rand is a bimetallic wonder in its later versions, but this specific year, we were looking at a transition in composition and design that mirrored the transition of the government itself. The reverse of this coin does not show the typical wildebeest you might expect from a standard 5 Rand. Instead, it features the Union buildings in Pretoria. This is significant. This is the seat of the South African government, the place where Nelson Mandela stood on May 10, 1994, and declared that never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. When you hold this coin, you are holding a miniature version of the very architecture where history was signed into law. The detail on a high-grade specimen is staggering. You can see the colonnades, the twin towers, the sense of permanence that the stone buildings represent. But what makes this coin a target for the serious collector, the man who knows that value is hidden in the details, is not just the image. It is the strike. In 1994, the South African Mint produced millions of these coins for circulation. You could have found them in a till in Johannesburg or a pocket in Cape Town. But most of those coins were used. They were dropped on pavements, clinked against keys, and worn down by the sweat of hands working for a better future. To find one today that looks as though it just stumbled off the die is a feat in itself. Numismatics is a game of survival. It is about the one coin that escaped the brutality of the open market. For the men watching who have a box of old keepsakes or a jar of foreign currency from their travels, this is where you need to pay attention. You aren't looking for the scratched, dull grey versions. You are looking for the luster. You are looking for the mirror-like finish that suggests this was a proof strike or a coin from a first-day cover. Let's talk about those first-day covers for a moment, because this is where the story takes a turn into the mysterious and the frustrating. Many of these 1994 5 Rand coins were issued inside special commemorative envelopes, glued to the cardstock alongside a presidential inauguration stamp. It was a beautiful presentation at the time. But nature and chemistry have a way of interfering with our best intentions. Over the decades, the industrial glue used to hold these coins in place began to react with the nickel plating. It left a sticky, dark residue that ruined the surface of thousands of coins. If you find one of these coins today, and it is clean, truly clean, without the marks of chemicals or the scars of a cleaning attempt, you have found something that defies the odds. Professional grading services like NGC and PCGS have seen these coins come through their doors, often covered in that stubborn residue. The ones that are salvaged, the ones that are conserved by experts to reveal the original, bright surface underneath, become the trophies of the collecting world. There is a psychological aspect to this specific coin that resonates deeply with men of a certain age. We grew up in a world of rigid borders and defined roles. Seeing those borders melt away in 1994 was a lesson in the power of patience. Mandela himself was the embodiment of that patience. When you look at the obverse of the coin, you see the coat of arms. It is a symbol of authority, but in 1994, it was an authority that was being redefined. The inscription South Africa and South Africa represents the bilingual heritage of the nation, a nod to the past even as the reverse look toward the future. For a collector, these inscriptions are more than just words, they are the framework of the coin's identity. Why does this matter to you? Because value is often a ghost. It hides in plain sight until someone with the right knowledge and the right eye shines a light on it. Most people would look at a 5 Rand coin from 1994 and think it's worth about 25 cents in US dollars. And for 99% of those coins, they would be right. But we don't care about the 99%. We care about the anomaly. We care about the proof sets that were tucked away in a cool, dry safe in a Pretoria suburb and forgotten for 30 years. We care about the coins that were struck with a fresh set of dies, giving them a depth and a cameo effect where the buildings seem to float against a black, polished background. The market for South African coinage has seen a massive surge in interest globally. It isn't just about the Kruger Rand anymore. While gold is the steady heartbeat of investment, commemorative silver and nickel coins carry the narrative. And narrative is what drives the highest prices at auction. When you have a coin that represents the end of an era and the birth of a legend like Nelson Mandela, you aren't just selling metal. You are selling a piece of the 20th century's most important story. The men who buy these coins at high-end auctions in London, New York, and Hong Kong are looking for that connection. They are looking for a physical touchstone to a time when it felt like the world was finally getting something right. Think about the technicality of the strike itself. The 1994 5 Rand was minted in nickel-plated copper. This was a transition from the earlier silver rands of the mid-century. The copper core gives the coin its weight and resonance, while the nickel plating provides the durability and the shine. But nickel is a hard metal. It doesn't always take the fine details of a complex die as easily as gold or silver. To find a strike where every window of the Union buildings is crisp, where every line in the coat of arms is distinct, is to find a masterpiece of industrial art. It requires the perfect temperature, the perfect pressure, and a die that hasn't yet begun to degrade. Now, consider the scarcity of the high grades. In the world of coin grading, we use a 70-point scale. A coin that grades at a 60 or 62 is a decent, uncirculated coin. But once you move into the 67, 68, and 69 range, the population of available coins drops off a cliff. There might be millions of 1994 5 Rands, but there might only be a handful, perhaps fewer than 10, that have survived in a condition that would earn a grade of 69. These are the top pop coins, the ones that sit at the top of the population reports. When two wealthy collectors both want the finest known example of a Mandela inauguration coin, the price doesn't just go up, it explodes. It is easy to dismiss the change in your pocket, but that is the mistake of the amateur. The professional, the man with the seasoned eye, knows that history is often small. It is portable. It is something you can hold between your thumb and forefinger. This coin represents the moment the Rainbow Nation was born. It represents the transition from the old South Africa to the new South Africa. It represents a man who became a global icon of peace. As we move further away from 1994, the nostalgia for that era only grows. The men who were in their 20s and 30s then are now the leaders of industry, the heads of households, the people with the disposable income to reclaim the symbols of their youth. They are looking for these coins. They are scouring the auction catalogs.